Salvete omnes. This is Acroasis XX, and today we're going to talk about the imperfect of third conjugation verbs, the imperative, and a bit about exclamations in Latin. Most of this is kind of what you already know with just a little bit of tweaking and exception explaining, but for the most part, it's not as scary as it sounds at first, okay? So let's first review what we know about the imperfect tense. We remember imperfect sheep, they go ba, and that's our recognizer for imperfect tense. It's the ba. So normally we'd take the second principal part, we took off the re, and then we added bam, bas, bot, bamus, batis, bont to that present stem, which is, of course, what you have when you take off the re from second principal part. That's your present stem. The translation options were was or were verbing and used to verb. So in third conjugation, just like the present, we take off the entire ere ending. And then we're going to add the imperfect endings. Now, of course, you're probably thinking, well, that's not going to sound very smooth because then you're not going to have a vowel in between. Well, technically, my friends, there's always been a vowel between those endings, and that vowel has always been E. And the exception is in the first conjugation, where it has an A instead. Mind-blowing, I know, but there are many ways you can think about it. Either you can think about it this way, where the endings are actually ebam, ebas, ebat, and that could really help you when it comes to remembering aram or asarat for the imperfect assume. Suddenly it doesn't seem so irregular anymore. Or you can just think of it as what you normally do. Take off the re and add bam, bas, bot, and it makes the same difference. Whatever works best in your brain is what you should go with. So either take off the re and add bam, bas, bot, or take off ere and add ebam, ebas, ebat. The result will be the same. And really, you only need to know this if you're composing, because when you read it, you're just going to read it as imperfect and use the same indicator anyways. So the translation is still the same. Nothing has changed about that at all. It still was or were verbing or used to verb when, depending on which one you want to use. Context will tell you. Now let's try a practice. So we're going to conjugate the third conjugation verb, ago, agere, egi, actum. And we're going to go step by step through the process. So now we're going to use the process I described on the previous slide. And again, if you want to just take off the re, be my guest, but I'm going to say take off the ere. So remember, that's how I'm going to do this. So take out your notes and write this down with me, okay? Step 1, you need to take the second principal part and look at that one. You see it's agere. Next, we're going to take off the ere. So we're just left with ag. Now, if you tried to add bam, bas, bot to that, it would sound really weird, right? Ag, bam. So you have to, even when you say it, you want to add that E in there anyways. So there's different ways you can go about it. So now what I'd like you guys to do is from here, make agere imperfect. So take a minute, pause the video, and make this imperfect. Resume when you are ready. Okay, so now let's check your work. Once you add the imperfect endings, you have age bam, age bas, age bat, age bamus, age batis, and age bant. Now, when you translate it, it's going to still translate the same. I was leading or doing or used to lead, and the whole thing all the way through. So nothing has changed with translation, and really nothing has changed about appearance either. It's just if we're getting into the technical nitty-gritty bits about creating the phrase on its own, where it gets a little tricky. So take a minute, make sure you have this all written down as at least one example. Resume the video when you are ready. Now let's talk about exclaiming in Latin. So to exclaim, typically we use the accusative case. In English, this would be like, oh, what a world we live in. Happy birthday. Oh, miserable me. These are all exclaiming in English. In Latin, we like to use the accusative when we're not actually addressing a noun. If we're actually talking to something and we're exclaiming like, good God, that would be vocative, right? So let's take a look at what it can look like. So we can have the particle ne in there. We can have o with an exclamation point. It doesn't have to be vocative. You've seen a few examples actually in our readings, but now you know why it's in the accusative. So let's put some of these phrases that we just had into Latin. So if we want to say happy birthday to somebody, we say felicem diem natalem, and that is exclaiming happy birthday to them. Similarly, if I want to say, oh, miserable me, I go, oh, miserable me, which is the phrase we have seen before. And then if we want the Roman equivalent of, oh, what a world we're living in, it would be o mores, o tempora, which is a famous saying of Cicero. So now let's talk about the imperative. The imperative is what we do for commands. So run, don't swim. That's what they are in English. In Latin, previously we used the present stem, which was the second principal part with the RE taken off, for the singular command, and then we added TE to that singular to create the plural. In third conjugation, it does the same thing as usual for the singular with 4 exceptions, and these are everybody's favorite 4 exceptions in the Latin world. So the examples are duc, lead, dic, speak, fac, do or make, and faire, bring, carry, or bear. So when you say them together, duc, dic, fac, faire, look for the E. It's not there because, of course, we look for the E normally because when you just take off the RE and we'd be left with an E hanging out at the end. But because these guys are irregular, we don't have that. In the plural, it's also very different. So when you want to make a plural command, you use the third conjugation, you take off the entire ERE, like we did with present, imperfect, and future, and then you're going to add ITE instead of just TE. So duc will become ducite, dic will become dicite, fac will become facite, and so on and so forth. So now let's take a look at what it does in the negative. The negative, you have the imperative is going to work the same exact way as it did with first and second conjugation. There are no exceptions, no differences. So use noli with the second principal part for a singular negative command, noli agere, and use nolite for the plural negative command, nolite agere, don't lead. So that concludes this very slightly confusing but sort of similar review of imperfect tense, the imperative, and a different use of the accusative with third conjugation. Again, we're going to go over this a lot in class. If you have any questions, don't forget to include them in the Google form which you need to fill out for homework. Valete omnes.